let's talk about present day. Kamala Harris, as we know, has made history as the first woman vice president, as well as the first person of color to be vice president. How much is she worth?
We're estimating that Kamala Harris today is worth about $8 million. Again, that includes her husband, and that increase, which, up from $7 million in 2021, up from $6 million in 2019, that's largely due to an increase in the value of the LA home that she shares with her husband, Doug Emhoff, as well as the addition of a federal pension that she recently became eligible for. The rest of her fortune actually looks remarkably similar to where it was in 2021.
So can you talk about the other assets that make up this net worth?
So we already talked about this roughly $1 million of pensions that she has from state and local government. There's also a federal pension that she recently became eligible for. That's worth about $150,000. The biggest asset in their portfolio is their Los Angeles home. It's their only piece of real estate left in their portfolio right now. It's worth about $4.4 million, Forbes is estimating, with about $2 million of debt on it. The rest of that is all, a variety of investments in retirement accounts, in her husband's IRA, that kind of stuff. They've got, several $1 million of that kind of thing.
And what is her salary as vice president?
Harris makes a little over $235,000 as vice president, and that salary has actually been frozen at that level since at least 2019.
And her and Doug Emhoff moved into the vice president residence when she and Joe Biden took office, but they ended up selling some of their real estate. Talk about that and the money behind there.
Yep. So they sold two properties soon after Harris became vice president. They were able to move into the vice president's residence, which they don't own, but they also don't have to pay for. So they offloaded some of their extra real estate. Harris had an apartment in San Francisco, where this is where she grew up. This is where she rose in politics. But she sold off her last piece of real estate there in 2021 for $860,000. That's a pretty hefty profit over what she paid for it 23 years earlier. She sold it for $560,000 more. And then the next thing that was sold also in 2021 was that same DC apartment. And she sold that one for about what they paid for it. So in actuality, they probably lost money on that apartment because of interest payments that they had to pay on their mortgage.
She's written some books between 2009 and 2019. How much money did she make from those?
Yep, I've got her book list here. So she's got a 2019 memoir called The Truths We Hold. She's got a 2019 kids book called Superheroes Are Everywhere. And she's got a 2009 criminal justice policy book called Smart on Crime. And so those three titles, they made her quite a bit of money in 2020 and 2021. She made $350,000 approximately in 2020, $450,000 in 2021. But after the sort of the hype of her becoming elected or being elected vice president died down a little bit, that income stream was cut off significantly. And so that trickled to $80,000 in 2022 and just $8,500 in 2023, which is our most recent disclosure.
So is there any indication of what she did with that money, as well as the money that she made with Doug Emhoff from selling those properties?
It's kind of unclear. It doesn't really show up very well in the disclosures that we have since she became vice president. On the one hand, these disclosures are pretty opaque. They only have to, politicians only have to report these sort of broad ranges. And so we don't actually know exactly how much she, maybe if it had been distributed across a number of different investments, it might not show up very easily. So it's difficult to say, but suffice to say, most of her financial assets look fairly similar to what they looked like in 2021.